There comes a moment in every human life where something deep inside whispers, "You can't keep living like this." It doesn't scream. It doesn't explode. It arrives quietly sometimes in the middle of a normal day, yet it hits with the force of truth. Maybe you're brushing your teeth, scrolling on your phone, or staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., and suddenly you realize the person you've become is not the person you're meant to be. It's not failure that haunts you. It's the subtle awareness that you've outgrown the version of yourself you've been carrying. This moment, this uncomfortable clarity is where true psychological transformation begins. Because before anything changes on the outside, a massive revolution begins inside the mind. Most people think transformation is an event, a breakthrough, a dramatic decision, a turning point. But real change is a process of dismantling and rebuilding the internal architecture of the self. It requires questioning beliefs you've carried for years, challenging patterns that once kept you safe, and letting go of identities that no longer fit. Transformation isn't about doing different things. It's about seeing life through a different lens. And that deep internal shift never happens overnight. It unfolds slowly, often painfully, through moments of doubt, discomfort, and introspection that most people avoid. The human mind doesn't like change because the mind equates stability with safety. And yet, every major psychological theory from Jung's individuation to Maslow's self-actualization points to the same truth. Transformation begins the moment your current life becomes too small for the person you're becoming. But here's the hidden challenge. Most people live their entire lives trapped inside invisible walls built by old beliefs. Beliefs like "I'm not good enough," "people like me don't succeed," "it's too late to start over," or "I don't deserve more." These beliefs feel harmless, but they become psychological boundaries that shape your decisions, behaviors, and identity. You don't see these walls because you grew up inside them. They feel familiar, but familiarity is not the same as truth. The moment you begin to question these walls, just question them, not even destroy them, you start the first act of rebellion against your conditioned mind. Awareness is the spark that begins the internal revolution. Modern science supports this. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, proves that every time you challenge an old belief, you are literally reshaping your neural circuits. New pathways strengthen, old ones weaken. Meaning, transformation is not motivational talk, it's biology. You are physically re-engineering your brain when you choose differently, think differently, and behave differently. But here's the paradox. Most people want transformation without discomfort. They want growth without chaos, progress without friction. Yet discomfort is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign your old self is losing control. The brain is being forced out of predictable patterns, and the ego hates unpredictability. That resistance you feel, that's the identity you built, trying to hold on to what is familiar, even when familiarity is the very thing suffocating you. This is why changing habits is so hard. It's not laziness. It's not weakness. It's psychological homeostasis. The brain tries to maintain a stable sense of who you are. If you've believed for years that you're disorganized, your brain will push you back into chaos even after you clean your room. If you grew up thinking you're incapable, your mind will sabotage progress because progress threatens the old identity. That's why real transformation never begins with behavior. It begins with identity. You can force yourself to act different for a while, but you cannot sustain new behaviors with an old self-concept. Once you begin to shift who you believe you are, "I'm learning, I'm capable, I'm evolving. I take care of myself. Your actions naturally begin to align. This is the secret people miss. Transformation is an identity project disguised as self-improvement. Every meaningful shift, breaking patterns, healing relationships, building discipline, reclaiming confidence begins with the quiet redefinition of who you believe yourself to be. But this process is rarely linear. It unfolds like a psychological cycle. Awareness, discomfort, resistance, regression, insight, renewal. You progress, then doubt. You grow, then fall back into old patterns. You gain clarity, then feel lost again. But this is not failure. This is the mind rewiring itself. Even your brain mirrors this process. During major life changes, ending a relationship, leaving a job, confronting old wounds, the brain's default mode network becomes more active. This is the part responsible for self-reflection and identity. It's your brain rewriting your internal story. And that's exactly where transformation begins. In the story you tell about yourself. Every thought repeated with emotion becomes a neural truth. That's what belief is, not inspiration, not imagination, but a pattern your brain has rehearsed enough times to feel real. Change the story, and you change the person. But this requires something most people avoid: honesty. Not the self-punishing kind, but the kind that says, here's what I feel. Here's what I've been avoiding. Here's what I don't want to admit. That level of truth breaks the psychological defenses that keep you trapped. It exposes the emotional wounds you've carried. It reveals the patterns you've normalized, and it opens the door to integration. The process of welcoming every part of yourself instead of fighting them. This is the beginning of the journey. You're not fixing yourself. You're meeting yourself. You're not eliminating the old version. You're understanding it. Transformation starts the moment you stop running from yourself and begin paying attention to the quiet voice inside asking for change. That voice is not weakness. It's evolution. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. This is where the new story begins. Transformation feels chaotic, not because you're broken, but because two identities are fighting for control. The one you've outgrown and the one you're becoming. You're caught in the psychological tension between the familiar past and the uncertain future. This is the liminal phase, the space between identities. It's uncomfortable, confusing, and emotionally heavy, but it's also absolutely necessary. Without this period of psychological disorientation, there can be no rebirth. Every major transformation, from building confidence to breaking old cycles, involves stepping into a version of yourself that your past self does not recognize. And that mismatch creates friction. This friction shows up as self-doubt, procrastination, emotional overwhelm, sudden fear, or unexplained anxiety. But these are not signs you're failing, they're signs your internal system is reorganizing. Think of it this way. For years, you lived with certain beliefs, patterns, and emotional habits. The brain created pathways to support them, even when they hurt you. Now, when you try to live differently, your brain experiences unfamiliarity, and the ego interprets unfamiliarity as danger. That's why growth feels like losing stability. Your old identity tries to protect itself, even if it limits you. But here's the truth most people never realize. The ego isn't the enemy. It's simply outdated. It was built for who you used to be, not who you're becoming. The more self-aware you become, the more these old defense mechanisms weaken, and the more space you create for authentic transformation. This is why awareness is the most powerful psychological tool you will ever possess. Once you see a pattern clearly, it loses control over you. You can't unsee truth. And it's in these moments of clarity that the real identity shift begins. One of the biggest myths in self-growth is that you need more motivation or discipline to transform. But discipline without identity alignment creates internal conflict. It feels like forcing yourself. It feels like fighting your own mind. That's why most people fail to change long-term. They are trying to sculpt a new life while holding on to an old self. You cannot build a new future with a story that belongs to your past. The mind always rewrites reality to match identity. If you identify as someone who is always anxious, your brain will magnify worry. If you identify as someone who is unworthy, your brain will ignore opportunities. But the moment you shift identity even slightly, you begin to act in alignment with a new version of yourself. And that shift begins with emotional awareness. You cannot change patterns you refuse to feel. Emotions are signals data from your subconscious about what's misaligned or unhealed. Anger indicates violated boundaries. Sadness reveals loss or unmet needs. Anxiety shows conflict between the old self and the emerging self. Instead of suppressing these emotions, transformation requires listening to them. When you approach emotions with curiosity instead of judgment, your brain's threat response decreases. The amygdala calms, and the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reasoning and growth, act. In simple terms, emotional acceptance expands your capacity to change. This is also why self-compassion accelerates transformation. Being harsh on yourself doesn't help you grow. It traps you in survival mode. The more gentle and honest you are with yourself, the easier it becomes to shift your internal wiring. Transformation is not punishment. It's reconciliation. It's making peace with parts of yourself you once rejected. When you understand your patterns, you can change them. When you understand your fears, you can face them. When you understand your wounds, you can heal them. But transformation is also deeply influenced by environment. Your surroundings mirror your identity. If you're trying to become more confident but spend time around negativity, your brain receives conflicting signals. If you're trying to grow but remain in environments built for your past self, you will experience internal resistance. That's why psychologists emphasize environmental design, shaping your surroundings to support the person you're becoming. Remove triggers of your past identity. Add cues that reinforce your evolving identity. Create a physical and social environment aligned with your growth. But the deeper layer of transformation is belief. Beliefs are not ideas. They are instructions your brain gives your body. When you believe you're incapable, your nervous system prepares for failure. When you believe you can grow, your physiology shifts. Your posture changes. Your tone changes. Your decisions change. And your life changes with them. Visualization and affirmations aren't magic, they're neuroscience. Imagining a new version of yourself activates neural circuits that prepare your mind to embody that identity. The more vividly you rehearse it emotionally, the more familiar it becomes neurologically, and the less resistance you feel when acting in alignment with it. Still, transformation is not pretending. It's not faking confidence or forcing positivity. Pretending says, I'm something I'm not. Embodying says, I'm learning to live as the person I already am beneath the fear. Real transformation is not about adding something new to yourself. It's about removing what no longer belongs: old stories, outdated beliefs, inherited fears, and emotional weight from the past. The real you is not someone you need to create. It's someone you need to uncover. But this uncovering process often feels like chaos. You question your decisions. You question your identity. You question your direction. This confusion is not a sign you're lost. It's a sign you're evolving. Confusion means your mind is reorganizing. It means your identity is stretching. It means your old patterns can no longer hold you. You are not breaking, you are restructuring. And in this stage, patience becomes psychological strength. You don't need to rush. You don't need to force clarity. You need to stay present through the internal shift. Because the moment your new identity stabilizes, everything begins to flow effortlessly. This is the middle of the journey, the battle between who you were and who you're becoming. And if you're here, you're already further than most people ever go. There comes a point in the journey where transformation stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like alignment. The chaos softens. The emotional noise quiets. The habits that once felt impossible begin to feel natural. You no longer wake up fighting yourself. You no longer negotiate with your old patterns. You no longer feel trapped inside the person you used to be. Instead, you begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long time: internal coherence. Your thoughts match your actions. Your beliefs match your behavior. Your intentions match your identity. This is not perfection. This is psychological maturity. From a neuroscientific perspective, this stage corresponds to greater communication between the emotional brain and the rational brain, the limbic system, and the prefrontal cortex. Your reactions become choices. Your impulses become insights. You stop living on autopilot and begin living with awareness. The triggers that once controlled you lose their power. The fears that once shaped your decisions lose their authority. The patterns that once defined your identity begin to dissolve because you no longer feed them with attention or belief. But transformation doesn't end here. Transformation is not a destination. It's a lifelong process of becoming. Every new level of self-awareness reveals new layers of growth. Every breakthrough exposes deeper truths. Every emotional release uncovers hidden patterns. The journey doesn't require perfection-only participation. You will still struggle. You will still fall back into old habits. You will still face moments of doubt. But the difference is, awareness stays. Once you've seen the truth of your patterns, you cannot go back to unconsciousness. You may slip, but you won't stay stuck. You may fall, but you won't fall as far. You may regress, but you regress with awareness, which means you rise faster. This is what people misunderstand. Success isn't about never falling. It's about shortening the time between falling and rising. That is psychological resilience. That is identity evolution. That is transformation taking root. As your identity evolves, your environment begins to shift. You outgrow friendships that were connected to your old self. You stop tolerating conversations that drain your energy. You stop engaging in behaviors that contradict your values. Sometimes this feels like loss, but it's not loss, it's alignment. Life removes what no longer matches your frequency. You don't need to chase or force anything. As you grow, your world reshapes around you. The people who resonate with your new identity appear. The opportunities that match your new mindset emerge. The life that aligns with your internal truth begins to form naturally at this stage. You also begin to understand that growth is not about constant intensity. True transformation feels like ease, not because life becomes easy, but because you become grounded. You stop reacting from fear. You stop living in survival mode. You stop chasing validation. You stop performing for acceptance. You begin expressing your truth without rehearsing it. You make choices based on alignment, not anxiety. You set boundaries from clarity, not anger. You show up as yourself, not the version of yourself you created to survive. This groundedness is the quiet miracle of transformation. It feels like coming home to yourself, not the self shaped by fear, expectation, or conditioning, but the self that existed before you were taught who you should be. This is why transformation feels less like becoming someone new and more like remembering someone forgotten. But even here, the journey continues. Identity is fluid. Who you are today is not who you were 5 years ago, and not who you will be 5 years from now. The self evolves as your awareness deepens. Transformation isn't a ladder, it's a spiral. You revisit the same lessons, but at higher levels of understanding. The difference is that each time you return, you have more clarity, more emotional strength, and less fear. And there's a psychological truth beneath all of this. You cannot control everything that happens in life, but you can always control the meaning you assign to it. Viktor Frankl said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This is the heart of transformation. You may not choose what happens, but you choose who you become through it. Every ending you've survived wasn't really an ending, it was initiation. Every heartbreak expanded your emotional depth. Every failure strengthened your resilience. Every disappointment broke an illusion you needed to outgrow. You didn't just survive those experiences, you evolved through them, and that evolution is your power. So if you find yourself standing at a psychological threshold and afraid or confused, understand this. Confusion is the birthplace of clarity. Doubt is the hallway between identities. Discomfort is the signal that your mind is outgrowing its old limits. You don't need to rush. You don't need to have everything figured out. You only need to stay awake through the transition. Awareness is the bridge between what you were and what you're becoming. Eventually, transformation becomes your default way of living. You stop needing dramatic breakthroughs because your life becomes a state of continuous renewal. You shift gracefully. You choose consciously. You evolve naturally. And in this quiet unfolding, you realize that transformation was never about becoming extraordinary. It was about discovering that being ordinary but conscious is extraordinary enough in the end. Transformation is not a performance. It's a conversation, a lifelong dialogue between who you were and who you are becoming. And if you're willing to stay honest, stay aware, and stay awake, you will not just exist. You will evolve.